Welcome back to another episode of the Shit Stick of Life podcast. I'm Kortney Wilson. Let's get into it. All right, y'all. Today we are diving into one of the touchiest and most powerful topics there is. One of your most requested, money. But not the boring kind, not the spreadsheets and stock tips. We're talking about the real stuff, the fear, the freedom, the oh shit moments, and the confidence that comes when you realize you're the boss of your own wallet. Our guest today is Alyssa Davies, fellow Canadian, I might add, the founder of Mixed Up Money. She's an author, financial educator, and just a full-blown truth teller. Trust me, I've been watching her on social media. She's a truth teller, especially when it comes to women and dealing with money. So what I love about Alyssa is she doesn't pretend to have it all figured out. She's been through debt. She's been through major life changes, and she's come out wanting to help women stop feeling ashamed or scared of their financial stories. So you know what? Let's just get into it. Alyssa, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, I'm so excited to be here.
Well, I'm so glad that you're here. So truly, money has been one of the most requested topics because, you know, the podcast is called The Shit Stick of Life. And I say this on basically every podcast I do, but it's because in the South we say, oh, honey, you just been hit by that shit stick of life when something bad happens. But the reality is that money's tied into a lot of those things.
Yes,
you know, a lot of the major life changes that somebody goes through.
Yeah, every single area of life is connected to money in some capacity. Yeah. Relationships, work, everything.
Yes. Health, jobs, all of the things. So I was just saying before we started, we only talked for like 30 seconds. And I was like, I want to stop talking because all of this is good. But I like talking about money.
Yeah. I mean, I love it too. I've made it my job for that reason.
Yeah. But I didn't grow up where it was really safe to talk about money. I grew up, my parents didn't have, I mean, they had good jobs, but we never seemed to have enough. And so there was always that element of like, okay, they worked really, really hard, my parents. But we were always just a little behind the eight ball and really struggling. And so I learned a lot about money by watching people around me in all aspects of my life make mistakes. Mm-hmm. And so I kind of want to get just a little bit into your story before we start. So, you know, who are you and how did you end up talking about money?
Sure. I love to share a little bit about my background because it is coming from a place of I've been where probably many of your listeners are, which is that I started this entire journey because I was quote unquote bad with money. I had a lot of consumer debt. I had student loans and I had no idea what I was doing. And at the time, I actually ended up getting a job working for a financial company. The irony is not lost on me.
So funny. Yeah. So you're shitty with money and you're working with money.
Yeah. And I'm supposed to market like how to be responsible with money. That was my job.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh no, this is terrible. So I went home and started Googling like how to pay off debt because I was like, I'm going to become our clients if I'm not careful. And I ended up stumbling across many amazing personal finance blogs. That used to be the thing back then was blogs.
Yeah. Yeah, and vlogs.
Exactly. And so I was like, oh, like there's a whole group of people out there that are comfortable talking about money, that are sharing their experience with money. And I feel like I need to be a part of this. And so I started my own blog and accounted my entire journey of paying off my debt online publicly for everyone to see.
No way. Yeah. And is that what led you to writing a book about it?
Yeah, so everything started from that blog. I started actually having it as anonymous because, you know, there is so much shame and taboo around money. And I was like, I don't want people in my life to know I'm struggling. It lasted 24 hours. And then I was like,
funny.
Who cares? Who knows? Like, I feel like more people than I realize are struggling.
The transparency, right? Like, it's
exactly.
Like, you know, I mean, there's always a reason to be anonymous. I get it. But when I talk about things from my perspective that are like, just the other day I was talking about a parenting thing and I said, oh my God, parenting teenagers is the hardest thing I ever done. I was sharing a story with somebody privately and they're like, you know what? it makes me feel better that you're a celebrity, which I think is always funny because I don't consider myself a celebrity, but she was like, that you're a celebrity and that it's still hard for you. And I thought it was, I took that away. I thought about it all night because I thought, wow, she really didn't think that I was just normal.
That I'm human.
That I'm human, that I also pay bills at home and I also have, kids and that going through the same struggles and with parenting and marriage and money.
Yes, 100%. It's really nice because now that I've entered into this world and this is part of my identity, everyone is comfortable talking to me about money. And it's made my friendship stronger and my relationship stronger because I've removed all of the shame and judgment we're so worried about experiencing.
Well, then let's just do that. Let's just talk about money right now. So everybody listening up, we're going to go into different categories. We're going to talk about being the married woman and the single woman and all the things. But what's the first thing women should prioritize financially? Saving, debt, investing, or something else? And let's see where this conversation takes us.
Sure. That's a great question, and a question I get all of the time because it's impossible to prioritize everything all at once. So typically, I'll encourage people to always make sure that they're investing. It doesn't matter how much it is, but you want to get into the habit of doing that as soon as possible, as early as possible in life. And so while you can have debt and you can still have other priorities as far as savings go, you do need to be investing because your future self is going to thank you for the time that you had that money put away.
So hindsight is always 20/20. And do you have a figure in mind? Like when do you start investing? I have a kid in college. I have a 21-year-old. Did they start investing now? Is it more about the habit of being able to put away money?
Yeah, that's a great question too. I think as soon as you turn 18, if you have the awareness and the education and the understanding that this is something you need to do, you should start. It is 100% about the habit. Actually recognizing that if I put this money away every single month, even if it's $20, that it'll stay consistent and easy and it'll feel like a natural part of my financial journey. So it won't feel as stressful. Whereas if you wait until you're in your 30s, you're scrambling, there's a bunch of fear, there are so many other things that make that more challenging to accomplish.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So now if you're listening in your 30s, don't tune out. It's not too late. It's far from too late. If you're in your 40s, it's not too late. Far from it. I already know that I can answer that for you guys. But what she's saying is if you are in your 20s right now and you're vaping, stop vaping and put that into an account.
Literally.
If you're in your 20s right now and you're going out on a Saturday night, have one less beer and put it in an account. It's as simple as that. Correct?
Yeah.
Like people overcomplicate this. Now, where are they putting their money? Because when you say save, and I have this conversation with my kids all the time. Actually, I've had it with my husband. People keep one account, and I think that's a mistake to just have one account because that money sits in the account and you can't differentiate what you've saved for long-term versus short-term. Would you agree with that?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I'm a huge
What's a good
person
habit then?
You have to compartmentalize your money. It all has to go to different places. If you're investing for your future, which I would consider you should be investing for your retirement, which doesn't matter when that is, you'll need to be investing in, if you're Canadian, an RRSP or a TFSA. If you're in the States, a 401k or a Roth IRA. Pick one, doesn't matter. I would love to prioritize a TFSA if you're in Canada.
What's a TFSA?
So that's a tax-free savings account.
Okay.
So all the money you put in there, when you actually go to take it out at retirement time, it's tax-free, we love that. That's amazing.
Amazing. Okay. So what I do, because I'm self-employed, because other people out there go, I don't have a 401k in the USA. So I have a SEP account, which is, a self-employment account. So I get to put a percentage of my money. It gets capped every year and it gives me a break on my taxes. I do it every month. Now, sometimes in previous years, I didn't do it every month. Sometimes I do it at the end of the year. But because of what you just said, it really freaks you out at the end of the year when you got to throw tens of thousands of dollars into an account or hundreds of dollars, by the way, depending on where you're at. But that is like my personal 401k. And then I still get taxed on the dollars, but I get taxed when I retire at a different income bracket. So that's why people do it, correct?
Yes, exactly that. And
Okay.
one thing that I think is beautiful that you just shared is like some months I don't do it. That's
Yeah.
also okay. That's also very normal. You're going to go through seasons of life where you simply cannot afford to do the absolute
Mm-hmm.
best, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you have a child, when you are transitioning out of a different career, there are times when investing can't be a priority. And I just want people to know that's okay. Like you said,
Yeah.
there's always going to be time and you can
There's
always
always
make
going to be
up for that.
time. So one of the things that I think is important is because there are a lot of self-employed people out there who really get stuck paying their taxes because they're not paying them. It's not coming directly off of their pay stub every month. What is your recommendation for them?
Oh, for them, like if you're self-employed, there is actually one great book I would recommend is called Profit First. I think it's Michaelwitz. I can't remember his last name, but it's an excellent book for anyone who's self-employed that feels disorganized with their finances. And he talks about how important it is to pay yourself first. So that's one thing I recommend is always make sure you're paying yourself if you're a business owner. The second thing is that tax season is coming regardless of whether you plan for it or not. And so you do have to put money aside. Every single time I get paid for a project or by a company, I put 30% of that money into a separate account. I actually put it into a high interest savings account or a high yield savings account, and it collects a small amount of interest as well, which is helpful come tax time. So you have to prepare by planning ahead, saving a little bit extra. You don't make all the money you make, right? When you're a small business owner.
That's right. So when you get a percentage of your money, and it can be as simple as this for me, I have a separate bank account and it actually is labeled in my bank tax savings.
Same.
And yes. And so I do the same thing, about roughly 30%. Sometimes if it's a big check I'm getting, I'll do more. If I don't need it, I'll do more to overcompensate for another month where maybe a bunch of bills came in and I have to do less. So to me, under promise, over deliver on yourself.
Yes, absolutely. Because the worst thing that happens is you're going to save too much and then you have a little bonus at the end of the year.
I purposefully save too much every single year so that when I pay my taxes and my tax person says, okay, you pay quarterly, which I do, but also you made a little bit more this year and you owe this much. I am at this point in my life always prepared. And let me tell you, there are people that make far more money than me that are still not prepared. Because they looked at it as all of their money. I don't look at every dollar that comes in as my money. I don't. I just don't. I can't. Otherwise, I will always be stuck. Okay. Okay. What is a realistic emergency fund goal?
Oh, I'm so glad you brought up emergency funds.
That's different than your your long-term savings plan.
Yeah. Honestly, when you asked what the priority should be, whether it's saving or investing or paying off debt, the very first priority that I always recommend to people is actually making sure they have an emergency fund.
Yeah.
The reason for this is because there will always be an emergency. It is impossible for you to go through life without experiencing some sort of financial upheaval. Like that is just how life goes. And so you want to put money aside for those instances because if you're working
Alyssa,
to invest,
name a bunch off the top of your head.
Oh my gosh, a flat tire, your kids' extracurricular fees that you weren't expecting them to be that high, maybe
roof leak.
A roof leak, yeah, anything. It depends on what your situation is, right? Like if you're a homeowner, you need more. If you're self-employed, you might need more. There's so many variables.
Your landlord's going to kick you out unexpectedly and you need to come up with a security deposit. Guys, there are 100 things I could name off the top of my list that people don't consider emergencies until they're right before them.
Yeah. And most people don't have an emergency fund also. So if you don't have one, it's okay, but you should. The first step I always recommend is just get $1,000 into an account. That's an easier, lower lift, less intimidating way to approach an emergency fund because it's mostly achievable for the average person. Once you hit that $1,000 buffer, then you can start to set up maybe some automatic transfers every single month that continue to go into that account to grow. the typical advice you'll receive is to put away 3 to 6 months of expenses. And that sounds like a lot for some people.
It does, yeah.
So that may not be what you can afford. That may not feel necessary depending on your comfort with risk, but you can go through your expenses, and kind of identify what that looks like. It would also be 3 to 6 months of like your bare bone expenses. Like, I lost my job. I still need to make sure these fixed expenses are paid for every single month. So I have a roof over my head and food on the table.
Yeah, it's a really tough time for a lot of people right now. And so I already can feel the criticism on talking about this, where people say, well, it must be nice to have. Please take a breath before you do that. These are goals to get you there. If you're not there right now, these are merely suggestions. I am a big proponent of living within one's means. I always have been. When I first moved to Nashville, I made $1,000 a month from a publishing deal. My rent was $500 a month. It was actually $750, but I had somebody else giving $250, my roommate, towards it. But I never went into debt because I never believed I was owed anything. I wasn't owed a better car. I wasn't owed a better meal. I ate beans and rice. I never ate or drank out. I mean, not even a coffee out because I couldn't afford it. And I knew that putting it on a credit card meant that that was not my money if I couldn't pay it off at the end of the month. So let's talk about debt and credit card debt and your thoughts on all of this.
Well, my initial thoughts on all of that too is that even at the beginning of the episode, you said, my parents weren't rich by any means, but we had enough.
Yeah.
And I think that's typically the number one place people get stuck is, I'll never have enough. What is enough? And we'll beat ourselves up because we feel like we'll never achieve this imaginary number or this number that we have chosen, like $1 million that will provide us with security. But then we'll give our parents grace for just getting by and say, well, it was enough. So I think one thing I really encourage people to do in this situation, because it is a terrible time financially for people, is to give yourself some compassion. It's okay if you're experiencing a really hard season of life. You're not alone in that. And because of that, it's likely that some people will have a lot of debt, like you said. And if you're in that situation where, of course, there can be frivolous debt. I'm guilty of that. I spent my money recklessly and I paid the price. There's also people that have debt.
What was the price? Well, let's specify. What was that
price?
Oh,
I paid over $15,000 of consumer debt back, which was literally just spending on shopping and going out in my 20s. Like, it was a reckless mistake.
Yeah, but you are exhibit A here. You are talking about yourself. So it's not like you're talking down to anybody. You were this person.
Oh, 100%. I also recognize that there are people out there who have debt because they had to take on debt. They had to put food on the table. They had to buy groceries that month. They lost their job. There's nothing they can do. So whatever camp you sit in, you both deserve compassion. You didn't know better, or you had to. Whatever the situation is, there's still debt and we want to get rid of it. So there's a few options you have when it comes to repaying your debt. You can do a few methods. So one of them is like the snowball method, where you're paying everything off, tackling things by the highest debt that you owe. So say you have 3 credit cards, maybe you have one that has $20,000, maybe you have one that has $5,000. You'd prioritize that debt that is the larger amount. So $20,000.
I've always heard that you prioritize the lowest debt, the smallest, because when you get it away, when you are able to pay off the smallest debt, it is gone. You're no longer paying interest on that debt first. Is that wrong? You think?
No. Oh, sorry. That's okay too. It doesn't matter what order you go, but you want to pay off the debt. The other option is paying off the highest interest debt first. So even if you have a $20,000 debt, but you have a $5,000 debt that is sitting at a 19.99% interest rate and the other one's at a 4.99% interest rate, you want to prioritize the one that has the higher interest rate because it's costing you more money to hold. So those are the two options. The last option that a lot of people don't really consider is what debt is causing you the most stress. Sometimes we take debt on that's like a loan from family, or we have debt that's from when we were in college, and maybe that just causes us a lot of stress. I love to recommend that you pay off the debt that's causing you the most stress so you can move forward. We often get wrapped up in something and it feels so heavy. And when we feel that heaviness, we don't feel safe and we can't actually focus on what needs to be done.
So you're actually, by saying that, you're prioritizing the mental health and wellness component of this conversation, which is sometimes we do things that may not actually be the best financial decision. But the fact, it's still a good financial decision, but it might not be the one that everybody else chooses. But if it alleviates pressure in your life, a stress or anxiety or a depression, that ultimately that has to be a good thing. It's going to allow you to go out in the world, operate with a clearer mind, potentially take on a couple of extra hours at work so that you can go and pay off more debt. Like, there are so many positive things that come from what you just said.
Yeah, I think a lot of times with money, we assign morality to it, right? Like, this is a good choice. This is a bad choice. This is good debt. This is bad debt. Money is morally neutral. It does not dictate who you are as a person or what you deserve in life. And when we put money on a pedestal like that, we're giving it all the power and we have none left.
Well, this is interesting because, like, I always thought of money as evil growing up because I didn't have it. So I was it was framed for me like, money doesn't buy you happiness. And I do not believe that it buys me happiness, but it sure does buy me freedom. And so I've shifted how I look at money in a positive way. I have done that whether I have been rich or poor, by the way. And that has really transformed how I look at it all. And I love, like, I was just at a bar recently talking to like kids that had just graduated college, and actually one I'm now mentoring. We had such a great conversation, but I love talking to young people about money because I don't feel like we do that enough. There's no course in high school that says, hey, how to save. We have an economics or an accounting course, but it really doesn't get into the nuts and bolts of how to manage our money, how to not get into credit card debt to begin with. So yes, you just said sometimes shit happens and you're going to have to put something on a credit card. But if the mentality from the get-go or right now is that is not your money, credit card, that is not your money, and to avoid that at all costs, it will get you so much further ahead in the end.
Yeah, I think with that, like how you said, oh, I grew up like believing money was evil. We all grow up with money beliefs that we inherit from our parents, from people in our life. And those largely impact the way we spend, the way we save, the way we interact with money decisions. And most of us don't actually recognize that. So like you saying, I recognize that this was a belief I held and I changed it. I would love for more people to be able to do that. But for some people, it actually takes sitting down and unpacking what has happened with your money over your entire lifetime.
Okay. And then that might actually require a therapist. By the way, it did for me. I was a hoarder of money in little small ways. So I didn't grow up with it. And there were moments of very traumatic things where anyway, I'm not going to get into my life, but basically I would hide when I eventually had a little bit of money. I would hide $20 bills in my denim pockets, my jean pockets, to find it because I liked the high so badly. This is very much opening up a spot for me, and I had to, eventually I recognized what I was doing. I didn't need to do that. I wasn't in fight or flight with money. But I still find myself with a stash on occasion. for a rainy day, a stash that I don't need, by the way. It's sitting in a bank, but it'll be like a physical like cash stash sometimes. And I've almost eliminated that. So it is a psychological thing. So
Yeah.
like you just said, when you grow up, we all have a belief system about it. And sometimes it's breaking those habits if they're bad. What do you think are good habits for parents out there talking to their kids about money? What is an example of good habits?
Yeah, that's a great question. And first of all, just acknowledging that you hiding money sometimes is like, that's how you protect your nervous system. That's okay.
Yes.
Also,
Yes.
you may not know, but I am a grad intern to become a financial therapist. I'm just doing my practicum right now.
No, I did not know that.
I just started my practicum 2 months ago, so it's new. But I've been in my master's program for a couple of years. So that's why I brought up the money beliefs. But yeah, I think that for parents, because a lot of us experience what you've experienced. Maybe you grew up experiencing that scarcity or you grew up in poverty. And a lot of people are worried, like, am I going to pass on these same fears to my kids, even though we're financially stable? So what's really important, like you have said, is just actually talking about money more openly and talking about it in a very healthy way. So one thing we tend to do as parents is if we're not doing that great financially or we're taking our kids out somewhere and we want to teach them good money values, we're like, oh, we can't afford that. Like, you're not getting it. We can't afford it. Let's just move on. And I think a lot of the things that we do to ourselves and to our children is like we speak about money using a language that's very like dismissive or very like scary or that already has that shame and that judgment built into it.
Oh my gosh, this is good.
Yeah. So what's really important when you're talking about money with your kids is actually just to reframe things in a way where they believe that they can do with money, even if we don't have. So instead of saying, we can't afford this, you'd say like, oh, that looks so cool. What if we make a plan to save up so we can buy this when we have more money? Or something else. Just talking about it with them in a way where they become involved. They understand that it's not an impossible, that there's still opportunity for us to achieve that one day. It just might not be today. And we're also teaching them delayed gratification. So the way we talk about money with ourselves and with our children deeply impacts how we feel when we go to spend it.
Oh my gosh, that's really good. And actually, I might be guilty of some of the things that you just talked about. I have a pretty healthy relationship with money now, but I have definitely been known to say things like, we can't afford it, end of story, or whatever, especially back in the day. So I really, this is good advice. I really wish I could go back. Okay, so let's talk about let's talk about investment. So I'm a real estate agent, so of course I'm a big proponent of investing in boxes and dirt. But what's your perspective on all of this? And I say this knowing that one of the very first things that I hear all the time, especially from young people, and I say young people, that can sometimes even be 35, 40, we can't buy a house. It's unaffordable now. The market's unaffordable. So give me some thoughts on all this.
Some thoughts on where to be investing or whether or not buying a home is a good choice?
Both.
Okay. For investing, I'm very much a believer that boring is best. I think it's perfectly okay to choose some ETFs and continually invest in those ETFs and just make
Did you say borrowing is best?
Boring. Like
boring.
Make your investing as boring as possible.
Boring.
Yes. Don't borrow to invest. Yeah. Yeah. Just very important clarity there.
Okay, so boring. Be boring. Got it. I like it. Yeah.
Yes. I think diversification is important as well. So you don't want to make sure you're only investing in one thing or one type of investment. You need to make sure that you have your bases covered so that if the stock market isn't doing so hot, maybe you are invested in real estate and that's doing great. So having that diversification is great. As far as buying a home, I am someone who may have a different opinion than you, who believes that a home is a place you live, and I don't view it as an investment. So I think I've done this for my own self so that I can just enjoy my home and not feel a pressure to constantly be upgrading, to constantly have to check the value of my home, but just enjoy it as an asset that I do have. That's great. It's great. It's an asset. It'll grow. Inevitably, it'll grow. But I don't have to equate that to my net worth.
Okay. Meaning even if you own it, you don't equate it to your net worth.
No, I don't. I don't include it in any of my calculations just because I'm like, I'm always going to need a place to live. But I'm curious to hear your thoughts.
So I'm completely the opposite. So I have built the majority of my wealth in real estate, but I also believe in diversification for exactly the same reasons as you do. I don't think you should have all of your eggs in one basket. However, I believe that when you are renting, you are paying 100% interest every month to somebody else's box, to somebody else's investment. So the thing that I come up against lately is I can't afford to buy in Toronto or Vancouver or San Diego or Los Angeles. And that very well may be true. It might be an unaffordable market for generally a first-time home buyer. But I don't believe that's where you have to invest. So, they're giving away homes in Detroit and, other cities across America and across the world. So I believe in investing and buying wherever you can afford. Because when you buy a box that can be rented to somebody else, that person is essentially paying for your investment. So the house always depreciates, as you say. You don't necessarily have to worry so much about the house. Yes, upkeep, yes, and I could give you a spreadsheet all day long that would tell you, like perform a spreadsheet that would show you what real estate does. It never goes back. It never goes down for long, right? Because we're not making any more dirt. But the write-off on the depreciation against your taxes is fantastic. The dirt is appreciating. So don't think of it as the house is depreciating. The dirt is what's appreciating, the ground below you. So I'm a big proponent. I bought my first place at 21. I lost half of my assets in my divorce, but we had assets to lose because there were so many. We split them up. And now I'm back up to, I don't know. Well, the fact that I don't know much prior, it's not an insane amount, but it's, probably 13 properties or so that I have, while other people are paying them down and the equity continues to build. So when I meet with a financial advisor, I have my SEPs and my investments, my vehicles that will consistently depreciate and be worth nothing. But if my houses are my emergency fund, okay, so a kid is going to college, I can sell a house without affecting my retirement. Okay, a kid is going to do this, I can sell, or there's an emergency or whatever it is, I have assets to borrow from, and eventually those things are paid down and the income increases from those renters. So my backup plan in life is that, if the shit hits the fan for me and I can't work or I get sick, I have enough houses paid off that even though my cost of living would have to decrease, I could live off the rental income. Mm-hmm. So to me, and this is really just going in line with what you said about diversification. This is just one more way to diversify, but everyone needs a place to live. Mm-hmm. So why not pay yourself?
Yeah, I think either way, whether you're investing in the stock market or you're investing in real estate, you need to be doing one or both of those things to actually have some sort of security blanket and also plan for your future. You can't have neither. It has to be one or the other or both.
Yeah. Okay, so what are some red flags when it comes to money when you're dating?
Oh my gosh, we're switching gears here. And dating is a tough one because actually dating, I find, and money right now is a very sticky place because literally the name of your podcast, just because there are so many variables right now. There are people who are very financially secure. There are people who are not. And I think one area that we don't ever feel like we need to talk about early on in a relationship is money, and yet it is the most important area to talk about. So red flags for me would be if you are dating someone and they aren't willing to talk about money at all.
Wow.
I think
Okay.
that you don't have to share, like, I make this much money in the first couple of months of dating someone, but you should be able to talk to someone about what your goals are for your future, which are directly impacted by money.
Right.
So,
I live by the seat, fly by the seat of my pants, and believe, as it comes in, it can go out, just, c'est la vie, seize the day, all the stuff. Versus, I want to retire for my future. I see me traveling as an adult with my partner, or those are the types of conversations that are healthy.
yeah, I actually always recommend that be how you start talking about money in a relationship, is by asking questions about the future. Like, what do you want in life? Like, what do you see yourself wearing 10 years from now?
Yeah.
Those kind of questions are going to tell you a lot about how someone views money and what they want to do as far as earning and saving and spending go.
Yeah. I'm sure you guys can chat GPT the hell out of this, but there would be a million questions that would be really fun on a date night to say, like, okay, so you unexpectedly get $1,000 from your grandmother. What do you do with it? There's such an exploratory conversation that you can have with people that tells you a lot about them.
Yeah, less of the close-ended questions like, what do you make? And more of the open-ended questions like, where is your dream place to travel? And when do you want to go?
Do you believe you now, did I read that you have been divorced?
I'm going through it right now. I'm in the shit stick of life.
You are in. I'm so sorry. Been through it. Been there. It sucks. Okay, so how would you do things differently as a married person, knowing that over 50% of marriages end in divorce? How would you do things differently financially? What's your recommendation?
So I'll tell you some things I did well and some things I didn't do well. The first thing I did well is I had my own emergency fund, completely separate from my ex's.
From the beginning?
Yes. We openly both had our own separate emergency funds. And I would recommend that all couples have this. The reason for that is because at any moment, someone can completely change. Someone can do something, someone can betray you, something bad can happen. They could pass away. It doesn't necessarily have to be bad toward you. It could just be that something awful happens in your relationship and you need access to money right away. So that's one thing I think I did well. One thing.
Okay, can I pause for a second?
Yes.
If you don't make money in the relationship, but you're contributing to the relationship, i.e. a stay-at-home parent.
Yes.
Is it acceptable to ask the partner that makes money to put that fund together for you so you have it?
Oh my God. First of all, it's always acceptable to ask anything of the money because it's yours too. You are not contributing financially, but you're contributing to the other types of labor that exist in that household. And therefore, you deserve the same autonomy, choice, and access to that money as your partner does.
You might even need to get paid for all the things that you do within the house.
God, they wouldn't be able to afford you.
Okay, so you should be able to ask. And guys, ladies and gentlemen, because we are living in a world where we have stay-at-home dads now, which I love. These are conversations you should have before you get married.
Yes.
What does this look like if I stay home, if I'm the stay-at-home dad or I'm the stay-at-home mom? I would like to know that I can buy something without approval or without you seeing, for example. Maybe it's a present for you. I don't know. But I want to have my own emergency fund and my own money. Okay, next. What's one thing you did not do well?
So it kind of actually branches off of that, which is the autonomy piece. We kept our finances mostly separate. There was one joint account and we had one joint credit card. And otherwise, we had full autonomy to spend and live how we wanted to. And the other person didn't really have a say. And
I'm
while I
computing right now.
yeah, like I thought
I did not have that.
was, I thought this was a great idea. I thought it was a wonderful way to manage finances in a way that we both felt safe and comfortable and free. And what I realized later in the relationship was that there was a bit too much freedom. And that autonomy actually became a detriment to our financial situation. So my belief isn't necessarily that everything should be combined, because I think that can cause a lot of danger and harm in a relationship. I think there needs to be some of that separation. However, I do think that there has to be very, very open and clear communication about money when it comes to that autonomy.
What does that look like to you? Like one joint account, two accounts that are separate, and a percentage of everybody's money is going into the center. Like, is it a contract? Is it written down? Are you meeting once a month to discuss it? What do you think that looks like for a married couple?
I think you need to sit down at least once a month. I think it can't be just a talk. It has to be an actual, like, let's open everything up and see where we're at. Let's look at these numbers together. Most of the time in a relationship, it's one person in control of everything. And that doesn't benefit either party, because it becomes a huge amount of labor and stress. And then for the other person, they have no idea what's going on, and they could potentially be in danger. So I think that you can combine all your finances if that's what you're comfortable with. You can have things all separate if that's what you're comfortable with. It doesn't actually matter. What matters is that you can sit down with each other, look at the accounts, and both feel okay with what you see.
If you can't have this conversation before marriage, I'm just going to go ahead and say, don't get married.
Yeah.
And I know that I'm going out on a ledge by saying something so bold, but in a time when so many people are getting divorced, and so many rights, honestly, are being taken away as we speak, especially in America, women especially have to protect themselves. You should know what's going on. I can't tell you how many friends that I've had, doctors, lawyers, very smart people who should know better, right? We say we should know better, have ended up in divorce and didn't have a damn clue what was going on with their finances within the house. So it does not discriminate, is what I'm saying. We have to empower ourselves and remind each other that money, there has to be an element of respect when it comes to money, which means you should be able to talk about it very openly in your relationship.
I actually think that's not bold at all to say, because getting married is the biggest financial risk you'll ever make in your life.
Yeah.
It's historically, that's what marriage is a financial relationship where both of you mutually benefit. And because of that, we now view marriage as like a love contract and less of a financial contract.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, that financial contract is what's going to really fall apart if something does go wrong in a relationship, which, as you said, 50% of the time, unfortunately, it will.
Okay, so then what are some common money traps that women specifically fall into, and how do you avoid them?
I think a very common money trap is the avoidance piece, which is like, my husband's got it all taken care of and I don't need to worry about it. Most of the time we do that because we have this internalized belief that we don't know how to manage the money, or that we're supposed to be protected and taken care of. We're the caregivers in every other area of life. So this is the one area of life that we don't need to worry about.
Yes. I had that, everyone. I had that in my previous marriage where I took care of a lot of stuff in our, like I was all things kids. I was all things work. I was even all things real estate, and most things flipping, which was the misconception, is that I was right in the middle of all that. But my ex at some point took over all of the finances. And when we divorced, they were a mess. I mean, a mess. And at one point I got a tax document. It was right before we got divorced, where I was like, what is this, negative $400-something thousand. And I called the accountant. She said, Kortney, that's your loss on that account. And I was like, what? On that business? And I was like, I didn't even understand. And so the amount of like just having my finger, every time I pushed to have my finger on the pulse, I got an excuse, which essentially meant now I know, I feel like an idiot, but there were things that were being hidden.
Yeah.
And I cannot, to women out there who are scared, like you had just mentioned, it is the most empowering part of my divorce was taking back my finances. It
Oh,
was,
I love
I
that.
am in the best shape of my life now, but it's not just because I don't have more money. It's not like it's not necessarily attributed to that. It's that I know where everything is. The decisions are mine. If I make a bad decision, it's mine to own. If I make a good decision, it's mine to own. But I know where everything is.
Yeah.
Um,
I love that. I think like most women carry a lot of shame that's inherited, whether it's like culturally from family, even social media. It's like there's constant judgment of how we spend our money. And so out of that, we then become afraid or assume that we can't handle.
um, y- yeah, and we absolutely are capable of
Oh, more than
handling it.
capable. We're
So more
actually
than
more
capable.
responsible statistically.
Yeah. And if you feel like you're not, it's because somebody made you feel that way. And now that you're interpreting that as your own thoughts or your own narrative, just throw that out the window today. Get some help, talk to a therapist, figure it out why there's that block. But it's one of the best things that you can do for your life. I actually just interviewed Jen Hatmaker and for the podcast, and she was in her book. We didn't so much talk about it on the podcast, but in her book, she talks a lot about how scared she was calling the banker and saying like, how do I get in my account? I don't even know how to log in. When you do it, it becomes a whole lot less scary. And when you are transparent and you say, I'm scared, I'm not really sure what I'm doing here, people are willing to help you. I promise. They're not
Yes.
going to turn you down. Okay. Well, I have mental health and money, because you talk a lot about the emotional side of money. Are there emotional purchases that are okay? How do you feel about all of this right now? Just
Uh,
tell me what you want to talk about it as it pertains to the emotional side of this.
I think what I've learned through speaking with clients over the past couple of months is that almost all of us feel some sort of scarcity in regards to our money. And that can be the most financially secure woman you've ever met and the one who is struggling more than she's ever struggled in her life.
Mm.
We're all feeling like we don't have enough and we're never going to get ahead.
Mm-hmm.
And when you really unpack that, a lot of it is because we live in a society that creates this scarcity for us, makes us feel like we'll never have enough, makes us feel like we need to do more, 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 buy more, more, more. And another thing is that a lot of times it comes down to safety. And I think that's ultimately the theme. When you feel safe emotionally, you'll feel more confident with the decisions that you make when you're buying something. So a lot of us spend our money because we are feeling some sort of dysregulation in our body, which would be like, I'm stressed, I'm exhausted, I feel like I've done all of these things this week and I just need a break. And the easiest thing to do in that moment is to buy something. Maybe it's takeout, maybe it's a coffee, maybe it's dinner with your friends. Ultimately, though, that's a quick fix that's not actually getting to the root of what you're feeling.
Okay, but sometimes you need the pumpkin spice latte, I'm just saying.
Oh my God.
Sometimes it makes you feel good.
I buy that daily. Like, I am a huge emotional spender. I'm an impulsive person sometimes. And so you're never going to escape that. That is, again, that's how we live. And that's okay. Yeah. Like, if that coffee makes you feel good, buy it.
Like, what you're saying speaks to me because I used to not spend a dime on anything. I was hoarding money to just hoarding money when I didn't have money to hoard. But I mean, you always have something. Like you said, it's all relative, whether it's dollars, $20, $30 here, or thousands. I suffer from anxiety when it comes to money because of the way that I grew up. It's a constant battle for me. If I lose a job, I immediately like, oh my God, am I going to be okay? And then I have to take a breath, calm myself down, and recognize that I'm absolutely okay. That this is like a reaction that's coming up from my past, and that I might have to change my I become less emotional and more practical about it. But we have to live. And there are simple joys in life that I think are really important, like the pumpkin spice latte or, the necklace that just went on sale that you're like, oh my gosh, I've wanted it for a while. But you do have to get down to the meat and potatoes of the why. Is it filling a void? Are you going to regret this purchase tomorrow because it filled the void today?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's exactly it. I also think, like, for me this year, because I am someone who uses those emotional purchases to feel better, I've started to introduce friction back into my life and to slow myself down when it comes to
what does that
spending.
mean? I want to hear more about that. Friction.
So basically, everything's very easy. It's so convenient to spend your money. That's the way we want it, right?
Yeah.
And I have introduced rules into my shopping that require me to not allow convenience to be the way that I use my money. So for me, I do not buy any clothing online anymore. I try to go to the mall or in store to see if I can find it first. The reason for this is because it's inconvenient. I have to leave my house, and it actually makes me sit down and think, do I actually need to buy clothing then? Because this feels like a lot of work.
Yes.
So stuff like that. Another one is, like, I tend to use DoorDash or Uber Eats or whatever you use to buy food, deliver it to your house when you've had a long day. I am only allowing that once a month. So if I want takeout that bad, I have to go out and pick it up. I'm not going to have someone deliver it to my house anymore. So,
which, by the way, you get your steps in and it costs you about 25% less, but okay.
Exactly. So it's like these things that used to be normal for us that are no longer normal. I'm bringing them back because
you know what? I got to tell you a quick funny story because my one of my kids is tied to my Uber account. Actually, two of them are.
Oh, no.
But Uber Eats. And one day I was out and I saw that Uber Eats was being delivered. And so I clicked through and it was Starbucks. My daughter had Uber Eats Starbucks to her house. You have never seen a mother lose her shit more than me in this moment. I went ballistic. I was like, in what world have I raised you to think that it is okay to Uber a $6 coffee that eventually cost you $15? $15. Like, I won't even buy the Starbucks coffee, and you're buying a $15. I lost my shit.
Yeah, the coffee is not $15 worth. Like, it does not taste that good.
$15 worth. No, but it was the convenience for her to do it and the entitlement. And so what you're saying is check yourself.
Yes.
So put these boundaries in place, write them down. If you have a boundary for yourself, write it down in your notes on your phone, write it down on your pad of paper, write it down and put it in your little side table before bed. Remind yourself of these boundaries because it's very easy in this day and age to go click, click, click.
Too easy.
Too easy. Every month I am surprised at how much I spend on my credit card. Now, I can afford what I'm spending and everything's relative, but I could spend a lot more if I didn't have these checks and balances.
Yeah. And are you spending on what you actually value is another part of that equation, because sometimes we're just buying things without actually sitting with the question of, like, what is this going to add to my life? And does this align with how I want to live my life too?
Yes. Oh my gosh, this is so good. Now I want to read your book. Okay. Well, I want to get into a few little rapid fire, but I'm going to have to go through these because some of them you've already answered. But I am going to ask you this very directly. Save or pay off debt first?
Both at the same time, because you don't want to completely disregard that habit of saving. Even if it's $5 a month, please keep that habit going. But
so
that should be the priority.
Interest, but the saving is more about the habit. So even if it's $10 a month, guys, put it there so that you trust yourself to do it. And then when you can increase it. Okay. What's one money habit everyone should start today?
That's such a hard question.
You can
not very rapid fire.
I know, I know, I
Habit
know,
you
I
have
know.
to start today. I think like personal check-ins, the small questions you ask yourself before you buy,
I
since we
like
were
it.
just talking about it.
Yes, yes. Ask yourself. Don't. It's kind of like sending a text to somebody after they wrong you. Don't send it right away.
Yeah, no, please. 24-hour rule.
24-hour rule. So maybe before you buy anything, you have the same rule. Okay. One thing to stop buying right now if you're trying to save money.
Anything that's trending.
Yes, got it. Best boring money move that actually works.
Investing in ETFs.
Okay. How much should someone invest monthly if they only have an additional $100 a month after all their expenses?
I would personally try to go between 70 and 80% of that and keep a
Okay.
small buffer for emergencies.
I love that. Okay. What's a low risk way to dip your toe into investing if you'd like to?
I think most investing is lower risk than you think. So
Yeah.
any investment is going to be better than none at all.
I'm going to say Vanguard. If you guys are if you invest in something and you're not really sure and you don't have a financial investor, if you invest in Vanguard, it takes like the top 500 companies.
Yes.
And they're always shifting. So I won't say you can't go wrong. You can always lose your money. Investing is gambling, but I would say that's a safer bet. What's the one money mindset shift that changed your life?
There will never be enough. You have to find enough in every day.
Yeah. What's the first step to stop feeling guilty about money? And I love this because you're going to school for, the psychological component about this.
Yeah, you have to know the difference. Guilt shows up when we believe we've done something bad. Have I done something bad? Probably not.
Okay. One money mantra you live by.
Also live within your means. Always.
Guys, it's my mantra. She just stole my mantra. Steal it from both of us. Live within your means.
Always.
If you make $1 million and you spend $1,000,001, you broke. If you make $30,000 and you've saved $500, you're a good little saver. Okay? So it's not what you make, it's what you spend. That's always been my mantra. It's not what you make, it's what you spend.
Beautiful.
Okay. First thing to do financially after a breakup or divorce.
Book a therapy appointment.
What's the smartest money move for new parents?
I want to say having all of those really difficult life adult tasks taken care of. So life insurance, your will, and like setting up an investment account for their college education.
Love that. Cash or credit, how do you pay for things?
Always credit because I love the points. I want free
same.
things for spending money.
Same. I almost never have cash. And if I have cash, Emma's sitting here. If Ryan were sitting here, he'd be the better person to ask. But I only have cash because I like to give it away when I'm out to people in unexpected ways. So like an unexpected cash tip of $100 after your meal's $20. That's why I save. My motivation to save is to give because I get it's a codependent relationship on it. I also get a fix from it, but I love it. Just brings so much love to my heart. Okay, a splurge you will never feel guilty about.
Oh, I never feel guilty about a good coffee.
Yeah. Oh, I think I can relate to you. That. Sisters. First big purchase that made you feel like an adult.
My house. It was such a great experience.
So you still own a house?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
I have nothing against it. I want a home because it provides safety and stability.
Yeah, well, we're going to talk later because I want you to borrow against that home to buy another home to take out that box. So, after you're done school, let's chat.
Okay.
Most random thing you've ever budgeted for? This can be funny. It can be anything.
Botox.
Oh, I have to go. I'm going. Emma, am I going on Tuesday? I'm going on Tuesday. I think I'm long overdue.
I'm about a month out from my next appointment.
Yes, but it's the only thing that I really do.
Same.
I don't do filler or anything. So, but Botox is just, I feel like it's taken years off my life.
Same.
Okay. If you found $10,000 tomorrow, what's the first thing that you do?
Oh, I would put half of it into my TFSA because I'm partially boring. And I would probably book a trip with the other half.
Yeah. How do you feel about giving back and charity and all that stuff?
Oh, huge belief of mine. I also love to just randomly tip. One of my rich life feels, because I was a server, so I recognize how difficult their job is. I try to tip 100% at least once a month.
Oh.
And I also, for 1 year, anytime I came across a GoFundMe that was on my Facebook or on Instagram, I always contributed at least $20.
Emma just looked at me because I put a GoFundMe out there yesterday because we're going to Ethiopia, and that has my heart. I go over there and, we feed babies and moms and educate people. And by educate, I mean put them through college or put them through school or buy them a bike for their business. But I want to raise $10,000 by the time we go so that we have money there to do the things. Sometimes it's buying a cow for the neighborhood or chickens or whatever it is. But all I was asking people, it was for $5 a person, $5 a person. But I think it is important for everybody to understand the art of giving is such a huge component to your whole lifestyle and how you portray yourself in that world, to much is given, much is expected. But also, if for those of you who say, well, if I had $1 million, I would, I always say, no, you wouldn't. The people that typically give are the people that have been in a position to have to receive.
Yes.
And it is just such a wonderful experience. So I love that you do that.
I honestly, love that you do that. Me and my friend always joke that giving is the best skincare because it makes you happier and it clears your skin. It gives you a glow. Okay,
where can people follow you and get more of your Real Talk Money stuff? I also know that you do some really funny stuff online and some empowerment stuff. I've been following you, friend. But tell us where we can find you.
I love it. You can follow me on at Mixed Up Money on TikTok, Instagram, all of the places. And then I also have a podcast as well called Money Feels.
I'm going to be actually listening to Money Feels. Alyssa, thank you for being on. Thank you for talking about all things money. You are just a delight. And I hope people follow you because you definitely have a lot to offer this world.
Oh, you just made my day. I had so much fun laughing with you and learning. Thank you.
Okay. Till next time. Thank you so much for listening to another episode of the Shit Stick of Life podcast. Please remember to like or subscribe wherever you're listening or watching. Much appreciated. See you next time.